Hello, good people. Hey, y'all. I'm definitely excited to be here. Um, for starters, just shout out to End Abuse for putting on this whole soiree. The planning process has been quite interesting. So I'm fortunate enough to see the process from planning it behind the scenes, as well as being able to be a speaker and presenter and flow in my natural lane and vein of what it is that I do. So again, shout out to End Abuse for just putting this whole piece on, man. This is just a dope. Um, the last couple of days have been quite refreshing. Just listening to the speakers, hearing the power, hearing the information, hearing the passion, hearing the thought provokingness. I'm here for it. So welcome to Social Justice is More Than Just Us. I want us to take our time with this conversation. I want to make sure that I hit some specific key bullet points that's going to help to drive home this piece when we're talking about social justice. In Milwaukee right now, we have a thing where it's like, I'm more of a social justice leader than you are, or, my following is bigger than yours, or my Facebook lives get more numbers than your Facebook lives. And at the end of the day, the hood is still suffering. At the end of the day, when we do all of that bickering, when we do all of that back and forth to talk about whose movement is more potent than this movement, or more potent than that organization, or, better than that nonprofit, at the end of the day, when we get done with all of that conversation, Milwaukee still leads the nation in several statistics when it comes to miseducation, several statistics when it comes to poor sexual health, terrible statistics when it comes to mass incarceration, employment rates, so on and so forth. So we want to just bust some things up today. I ask that we enter this conversation leaving our feelings at the door. When you are involved in social justice, it's not about you. And that's the whole potency. That's the whole point of the conversation. Social justice is more than just us. I'm going to try to share my screen. Let me see if this is going to work for me. And I just want to show us a YouTube video that I use when I find myself in these spaces and conversations. It helps to get a better understanding about perspective. Let me see if we can see my screen. Yes, we can. So let me just make this bigger here. And this is a real short video, but I wanted to start out with this video. It's only 40 seconds long, but this video teaches us about perspective, because sometimes the way we see something may be seen from somebody else's eyes totally different. The way we address and deal with a situation may be extremely different from somebody else's point of view. So I just want to show this real interesting video I stumbled across just to give us some perspective moving forward with the conversation. The ballerina in the middle is the same as the ballerinas to her left and to her right. We're going to look at the red and the blue lighting as opportunities for growth, as opportunities to shine your personal light. And depending on where the light shines in your life will determine which way your ballerina is spinning. Now, again, this is not, a bunch of hocus pocus. It's literally an optical illusion of the mind. Depending on, which way you see her spinning, counterclockwise or clockwise, will depend on how you address the situation. Depending on how you see life, depending on how you see social justice movements, it will determine how you deal and how you engage in that arena of social justice. So I just want to leave this up for a couple seconds. Just, look at the middle one, study the middle one with no lighting. And then look at the one to the left and look at the one to the right. And just, again, notice how each one seems to be spinning differently. Each one seems to have a different pivot point, you see. But at the end of the day, it all depends on your perspective and how you see that lighting. Okay, let's see if there's, let me stop my share. My name is Ajamou Butler, and I want to, for those who may not know about, the movement Heal the Hood, and I'm the type, I ain't gonna lie, y'all, I got my little podium right here, so let me see if I can stand up and make sure y'all can still see me in the visual, because I ain't gonna lie, as a public speaker, I really do miss, going to speaking engagements. I really do miss, being in front of crowds of 100 people. So I set up my little podium here, and I kind of want to just express and teach from here a little bit. It's kind of cutting me off. We're gonna get this together real quick. Oh yeah. But for those who may not be familiar, I am the founder of Heal the Hood Milwaukee, which is a social justice nonprofit organization based here, obviously, in the great city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The interesting thing about Heal the Hood, when I first started the movement back in May 2012, I never, ever thought or dreamed that it would become what it is today. I didn't even think the movement would last longer than that initial launching event that we did. I never had an idea to get into the schools and do leadership-based workshops and social emotional growth workshops. I never had the vision to, do these big, massive outreach fairs where we're able to touch upwards of 850, plus people in attendance. I never thought that I would be traveling and going to Iowa, all throughout, all throughout the Midwest, Michigan, Minnesota, all throughout Wisconsin. I never thought that when we started Heal the Hood back in May of 2012, that it would become a household staple in the city of Milwaukee. I didn't know that it would define my manhood. I didn't know that it would grow and build me as a leader and as a young man, as a father, as a student of life, as a son and as a brother. And that's the beautiful thing about social justice movements. When I initially launched Heal the Hood, okay, it was just a small desire in my heart to do good for the community. I wanted to get a couple of my friends who I know were, activists and poets and speakers, just to give us a small platform. So we might have had about 30 people in attendance. We probably have more people on this call right now than we had at our initial Heal the Hood event. But that's where you talk about the faith of a mustard seed. That's when you begin to realize that that thing that you're fighting for is bigger than a one-time event. So again, when we did Heal the Hood, our first, annual or our first inaugural, yes. When we did our first inaugural Heal the Hood event back in May of 2012, we never, ever would have thought that it would have grown to be something that it's grown to be today. But that's because the movement is not about you. The movements, the revolution is not about your person. So if I would have stayed trapped in Ajamou Butler's vision for what Heal the Hood was, it would have been a one-time thing. And I wouldn't be here in 2021 talking to y'all about the movement and social justice issues and, various things like that. From Heal the Hood, launching Heal the Hood, I've experienced so much beauty. And I want to talk about all of this up front. And then I want to throw it out the window and say it really don't matter when you're dealing with social justice. Okay. Since we started Heal the Hood, we have been on national platforms, national TV syndicate platforms. We've been in all type of print media. I've been awarded all of these type of social justice awards. I was awarded in 2017 a statewide award on behalf of Madison 365 Social Justice Leadership Award, and it was dope to get that. I mean, that I come from nothing. I come from the ghettos of Milwaukee. Okay, and so when I get those type of acknowledgments and recognitions, and downstairs in my house, I got all type of plaques on the wall and trophies on the shelves and all of that. None of that means nothing until we are all up. Okay, I believe that one is all and all is one. Okay, so it's good that I get those type of recognitions for the work that I do. It's absolutely good to be acknowledged for the struggle and the sacrifices, okay, that we put in to the social justice movement and arena. But at the end of the day, the struggle continues. And so I say all of that to say, some of us get those type of accolades and we want to sit up here and just, philosophize about our long journey of, being an activist and a leader. And I got this award and this trophy. And, I know people who will probably sit up and polish their trophies just to make sure if the light hit it, it hit it just right. And make sure that when they talk about it, it's just the biggest conversational piece. That's not me though, because I'm under the serious belief system and operation that until Milwaukee is in this decrepit state that it's in, the social movements are always going to be more about whatever plaque I have, whatever recognition, whatever social justice award, whatever media opportunity, whatever Facebook Live, whatever Instagram Live. None of that is relevant when you're dealing in this city where the majority of our youth come from underprivileged situations. They come from impoverished situations. They come from abusive situations. They come from a lack of nurturing and a lack of love. Okay. So when we're talking about social justice, is more than just us. I want us to remove emotion and ego, yes, and replace that thing with passion and purpose. That's something you want to write down. I want to make sure that everybody got pencil and paper, because we are going to go into small breakout groups just to have a little bit more intimate conversation with each other, just to kind of sharpen each other. I believe that steel sharpens steel. But in this space and in this place, when we're talking about social justice, we remove emotion and we remove ego. No breakout room, somebody just told me. Not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. I say that we need to remove emotion and ego for a couple of different reasons. Ego, E-G-O, stands for etching goals out. Etching goals out. When you're dealing so much in yourself and you just so caught up into yourself and it's all about me and I'm the executive director, I'm the, the president, I'm the CEO of the, I'm the starter of the nonprofit, you totally lose sight of the goal of why we are doing what we're doing. Okay. When you put people in front of that desk and they got a big title in front of their name, something shifts right there. I don't know what that thing is that shifts, but it makes us totally throw out the window the impact that we're looking to have with each other. It makes us totally forget about the power in the movement that we're trying to produce into the world. I say let's remove emotion. A lot of times in social justice, and I'm really preaching to myself. Okay, I'm not even talking to y'all about the remove emotion piece. I'm talking to myself. I take the work so personal. I get so mad and upset at the students who I work with when I see so much beauty and potential in them, but the world around them only spews negativity and hatred into their lives. I get so frustrated when I know the kid can easily be a 3-point, student, a 3.5 and above student, but they're settling for the 2.5. I take that personal because from my thought process, and these are things that I had to unlearn, because when I really started to take off with Heal the Hood, I thought I had the answers to cancer. I thought I could fix any and every problem imaginable. Yes. And so what I had to learn with removing the emotion of it all is that I cannot save everybody. I'm not here to be the savior, simply the messenger. I'm not the savior. I'm simply the messenger, here to pour out love, here to pour out wisdom, here to pour out positivity, and hope that life in all of its experience waters those seeds, and then we see some growth, and then we see some grind, then we see some another level of success. But until I'm, again, it's a growing process for me. But prior to me learning that I'm not the savior, I'm just simply the messenger when it comes to the social justice arena. Man, I would just be so frustrated, y'all. I would be doing these workshops with these young men, and they just wouldn't get it. They just wouldn't get it. Okay, we doing all of this positive conversation. We doing all of this talk about, internal growth and internal work and forgiveness and trauma and making better decisions. Yes, being a leader in times where it may not be fun to be a leader. Okay, standing out amongst the crowd. We would do all of this heavy conversation, and then we'll go right back to the lives that was leading, as though we didn't just spend an hour and a half this week, talking about whatever topics we were talking about. And I can remember a specific day where I had one of these type of workshops. And it was just quite overwhelming because, again, I would pour out so much, and I would be looking for instant gratification or instant turnaround in the lives of these young people. And so I went on Facebook and I did this big old rant, man, just big old emotional, frustrated rant. And it was definitely, it was warranted. Let me say that it was warranted. And one of my mentors, my good brother Muhid Dair, he called me, he reached out to me, man, that night, and he said, listen, little brother, he said, you can't wear your heart on your sleeve like that in the movement. You got to realize there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and sometimes it may be more downs than ups in the movement. He said, but as long as you see yourself as the source of salvation for the people who you come in contact with, you always going to feel frustrated like this. Until you remove yourself out of the equation and just push the message of healing, you're always going to find yourself frustrated with the work, overwhelmed with the work, burnt out, bent out of shape about the work. And it don't have to be like that. The work is hard. Let's not make it harder on ourselves by always saying, and again, I had that bad. I would go into these spaces and places and, as the keynote speaker, it's like, listen, I'm about to teach and preach for this 30 minutes, hour, 90 minutes, whatever the case may be. Once I get done, the world should be a better place. At this point in time, the world should be in a better place because I like to break things down real detailed. Yes, real meticulously. I like to make sure that we got a full and firm understanding on the topic at large. And so if we leave the table and we're not ready to get out here and, launch movements and do our thing and get out here in the communities, I'll be like, man, I ain't do a good job. I might get to telling myself and, negative talking myself, saying that I failed my duty and failed my position. But that's because ego was involved in it, and that's because emotion was involved in it. When you understand passion and purpose instead of ego and emotion, you're able to move with a clearer of a thought. You're able to move with a clearer of a heart. You're able to move, yes, with pure intentions. Okay. One thing that I want us to do, right? I want us to take a few minutes, and then we're going to bring it in for conversation. And this is where we would have find ourselves in the breakout groups, but I know that that's not an option. So we're just going to flow, as is and keep it rocking and rolling. One thing I want us to do on our pencil and paper, I want us to talk about what social justice issues we identify closely with. And I want us to talk about why we identify closely with those social justice topics, right? And we're gonna get somewhere with this. Once everybody get their ideas written down, and we have a little bit of discussion, we're gonna wrap it all up and put it in the bow and make it all make sense. What I've learned is that a lot of people don't really have a why. We don't have a why. We know that we may want to be active. You know, we may think that it's popular to be in activism and social justice and, you know, being out in the protest circuit and so on and so forth. But why are we really out here? Are we out here to make sure that we can go on Facebook Live so that people can see we was out here? It's people to see that, you know, oh, I'm being dangerous. I'm protesting. The police are here. You know, we get so much of that social media piece. Is that why we're doing it? Or are we doing it because deep down in the depths of our soul, we know that we have to use our voice as a tool of empowerment. We have to use our voice as tools of rebellion, so on and so forth. Now, speaking of the protests, now I got that written down on my notes there. So anybody who kind of knows me and my role in Milwaukee, you know, I'm out here in the streets, okay? I'm out here in the trenches, and we've been out here for a long time, you know, just in the communities hands-on, in the school system hands-on, in the after-school programs like the Boys and Girls Club hands-on, and for a long time. And so last summer, there was a young woman who began to, you know, find herself in the community activism realm, you know, through a couple of community events. I mean, they were beautiful. I went, supported, and everything. They were dope. You know, introduced myself just to say, hey, you know, how's it going? Yes. Long story short, a little bit of fast forward, you know, we'll say a couple months down the line, now we got the Milwaukee protests going on, right? And again, anybody who knows me, I hop in. I know my role when it comes to the protesting and whatnot. I know, and I really get into the thick of it. I'm there to protect the protesters. So we in vehicles, okay? We making sure that there's a barrier between any dangers and those who are out there peacefully protesting. So I get in traffic, you know, in my car and whatnot, and this young woman is there, and like the way she handled me, she just like, move your car this way, go this way, get out the way, turn this way. She ain't knowing who I am, though. Like, she ain't like, and I'm not here for the ego, but also I followed her lead. Okay. She, you know, she was networking and working with the people who were facilitating the protest. So she had a role, and I respected that too. But in that very instant moment, I'm like, man, sometimes the emotion and the ego of things, it just takes us over, because I'm here to play my role, and I play it very well. And those who are organized with the protest, they know that when Ajamou comes, he gonna do this, he gonna get in line over here. He got the lights on his car, got this little, you know, hazardous light I put on the top of my car and whatnot. So they know I come to put that work in. But on this particular day, the young woman who was running the operation, she wasn't aware. And that's okay. I ain't got no problem with that. But for me, I just told myself in my head, I said, we have to let people play their role where necessary. And so that's why I know how to fall back. And that's when I know how to step up. But if she was not so involved in like, oh, I'm a leader of the protest, she would have been able to say, oh, that's Hill the Hood over there. Let's let him get in right here so he can play his role over here and play it well. And so nonetheless, I want us to, again, talk about who are we fighting for social justice? Yes, on behalf of the disenfranchised communities that we want to represent. What social justice issues are we fighting on behalf of? And I want us to discuss on our own why those things are important to us. Yes. And when it comes to the social justice arena, let's not short ourselves. It's trillions and billions of different issues that we find ourselves plagued with. Okay. Homelessness, child abuse, domestic violence, drug abuse, mass incarceration, miseducation, medical manipulation, okay? Black on black crime, white on black, police brutality, environmental issues. I mean, we can literally go on and on. When I do this particular exercise with young people who I work with, okay, I literally tell them to stretch that list out. I tell them to stretch that list out. And, you know, if they got 10 things, I tell them, give me 5 more. I want us to think about social justice issues all the way across the sea, because, see, the way I tie it in with the youth, and I'm going to give us our time frame to write, yes? If we can think about, you know, we'll say starvation overseas somewhere, you know, we'll just say maybe in Africa, yes? We're thinking about kids who are starving over there. And that is our social justice issue that we choose to focus on. Now, the youth I work with right here in the inner city of Milwaukee, I may not be able to fly them over to Mozambique, so we can drop off, you understand, care packages of food, so on and so forth. But what we can do is do a food drive here in the city. We can, you know, get people to donate food and money to us, and then we can hand that food out to our in need population. our less fortunate population, right? And so we've done those type of things at one of my partnership schools where we collect and give out, 50 plus bags of groceries, full of groceries. Because again, we may not be able to change the world, but we can change the world around us. So I want us to take let me come back to my little seat here. Yes. I want us to take 10 minutes. School to prison, come on, school to prison pipeline. Absolutely. Immigration rights, mass incarceration. I love what I'm seeing in this chat, family. So let's take a couple moments, right? Get intimate with your pen and paper. And we're going to give this piece about 7 to 10 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes or so. And I just want you to just write a list in list or bullet point format. This is a social justice issue that I see, this, that, the third, and just write it out until your heart is content. And I want you to pick two. Let's pick two of those issues that we are most passionate about. And I want us to talk about why we pick those issues. So we have a who or a what. What are the social justice issues we are choosing? Who are the disenfranchised communities we're fighting alongside of or advocating for? And then why did we pick those couple of things that we picked? So let's take a couple moments here. I'm going to get my jazz music playing in the background. I'm going to kind of bounce through some of the comments in the chat. Feel free to add flavor and add your opinion to the chat. And you can also, I want us to also make sure that we are writing our thoughts down as well, because these are things that we want to take home with us so that we can sharpen ourselves. We don't want to leave such a beautiful conference like the Teen Summit and feel good. Yes, we don't want to leave here and just say, oh, that was inspirational. Then I'm back to my day-to-day life. I'm back to the average grind. I'm not out here making no noise. We want to be able to use these type of conversations, yes, as blueprints. We want to use these type of spaces as means to grow and develop as leaders, youth leaders and adult leaders, and the advocates for social justice. So let's go ahead and get this timer going. I'm going to play a little bit of music in the background, and then we'll bring it back in as a group. So again, take your time, family, get intimate. If you talked about the school to prison pipeline, give us a little bit more information about that. Maybe you are a teacher and you see that pipeline unfolding, okay? Maybe you have a young niece, yes, or a young nephew who may not have the best nurturing around them, and you see them falling into that prison to pipeline road. Maybe that's why that piece is important to you. We see immigrant rights. We see immigrant rights. Talk to us. Maybe you have some families and or friends who are closely affected by the immigrant or the immigration issues. I mean, I see equality. I see human rights. I see healthcare. I see housing. I see racial injustice, mass incarceration, all of these things, youth jobs. Let's talk about why these things are important to us. So I got my paper here. I'm going to write down a couple of my ideas. And again, we're going to take about 7 to 10 minutes at max before we bring it back in for share outs. Let me get my little bit of music going. I know I talk real fast, so shout out to our dope ASL interpreters for keeping up with me, because I know I'll be like, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, and they hanging with me apparently, so I love it. I love it, family. So we're gonna give them a break from all of my fast talking, ranting, and we'll bring it back in a couple minutes, family, and get some music going. And again, feel free to hit the chat box up. Let us know your thoughts. Give us some detail, and let's go a little bit more in depth with our social justice ideas. And then let me just say this too, while I'm writing, because we always get participants who, listen, our ASL interpreters are just dope. They tap right back in. But we always get people who are like, well, do I have to write an essay? Do I have to write a 10-page paper about it? No, I'm not asking for that. If that's where your heart leads you, absolutely. You go crazy with that pencil and paper. But I'm always the type to, let's give at least 10%. And when you give that 10%, just give another 10%. So if you start off with bullet points, maybe you want to go a little bit more in depth to talk about why you picked the ones that you picked. Instead of bullet points, start to give us a few sentences on each of those bullet points. Dig deep. This particular conversation is to dig deep, because it's not about us. Remember, we're talking about why we play a role to make the lives of other people better. And that's it for me right there. We go ahead and finish right. Yeah, somebody said the educational system. Yes. Yes. We're gonna talk about all of that. We're gonna talk about all of that. So I definitely will be calling on some people who commented in the chat box just to expound on their ideas a little bit. So we'll do about maybe 3 to 3.5 more minutes, and then I'm going to share out what I put. Yes, Veronica just hit us with some knowledge. We definitely gonna read on that at our share out time. Yes, yes, yes. I'm loving what I'm reading in this chat box right now. This is passion work right here. This is passion work what I'm seeing. So I'm gonna let y'all keep writing. I'm gonna bring the music to a close, and I'm going to enter into the chat box what issues are important to me and why those issues are important to me. And then we'll bring it around. I'll read some things in the chat box. Again, feel free to continue to use the chat box feature. And definitely make sure you give us a little bit of detail. So if you pick environmental justice, tell us what about environmental justice stands out to you and why that was your topic out of all things. So for I picked 3. I'm the type I can't just do one. It's like once you pop, the fun don't stop. What is the Pringle quote? I think it's like can't just have one or something of the nature like that. But that's how I am about stuff like this. So I put miseducation of children of color and all disenfranchised children. That one is huge for me because when you teach a child how to think and not what to think, you're teaching them to be free. You're giving them tools of liberation. You're giving them tools to build themselves up, build their character, build their mental capacity when you teach them how to think, not what to think. So I'm big on making sure that children are being taught to become critical thinkers, right? And not just, textbook thinkers. So we give them information, they regurgitate it to us on the test, and then we tell them they're either right or they're wrong. That's not education to me. And then also cultural education is a big thing too for me, as it pertains to miseducation of children of color and all disenfranchised children. The school to prison pipeline, I love that one was mentioned. That's always a huge thing of mine. Working in the school systems, you can see family. You can, if you have the eye, as an educator, as a youth social justice worker, as a youth advocate, as a caseworker, whatever your title may be, in that particular arena, you can see when our babies, man, you can see when they're just off to the wrong start. Dare not I be the one to say that you can see that they're going to end up here or they're going to end up there. That I may not be the one to say that, but it does break my heart to see some of the behavioral patterns and to know where they could lead to. And another thing, this is one thing that I kind of wanted to stress on a little bit, as a heterosexual Black man, Black Lives Matter. And I think that a lot of people have the game twisted, because I cannot say that Black Lives Matter to straight Black men, yes, but not fight for the rights of my trans community or the LGBTQ plus community, yes. I, as an able-bodied Black man, cannot say that I fight for the rights of Black people, or I cannot say that Black Lives Matter if I don't fight on behalf of Black women, yes. Our disabled community, our disenfranchised communities, wherever they may fall under that umbrella, I fight for us. And so one thing that kills me, again, now we're talking about the social justice, is more than just us. As a leader in the movement, right? And okay, let's say we do disagree with lifestyles and terms and titles and whatnot. If I, as a so-called leader in the movement, cannot move that to the side to work with those who look like me and work with those who say that they fight against the same oppression and system as I do, I can't really say I'm for Black lives. I just want to talk to y'all and tell the truth if I can. Okay, so we have this huge thing here in the city where it's like Black Lives Matter means this, or Black Lives Matter means this, or you have to look a certain way, you understand, to represent the movement, or you have to be a certain way or love a certain way to be protected by the banner of the movement. No, man, we all inclusive around here as far as me and mine. I believe in the unification of differences. One thing I wanted to talk about, just as it pertains to the Black Lives Matter, and then I'm going to go into just one more thing I wanted to mention, and then we're going to read from the chat. One thing we wanted to talk about with the Black Lives Matter thing is, let's look at the movement, how we look at our bodies. Yes, let's look at the movement, how we look at our bodies. Our body is made up of, so many different systems and organs and organisms that all work in one, so that we can move upright, so that we can think, so that we can walk, so that we can function throughout our day-to-day tasks. Okay, even down to our eyelashes, y'all. The eyelashes serve a purpose in the body's successful function. Okay, now let's say we have a day where you got your kidneys, your liver, your lungs, your heart, your spleen, all of that good stuff, right? Let's say I, as the lungs, say, you know what? I've been putting a whole lot of work doing this breathing thing, fam. I'm really the man, because I make sure that we breathing and moving and grooving. I'm gonna take a break today. And this is the lungs talking to you. And the lungs say, you know what? I'm the man. I'm gonna take a break today. The body gonna shut down. Yes, the body gonna break down. The body can't function without oxygen. The other organs can't function without that particular oxygen coming through. Let's say the kidneys, yes, or the liver. We'll say the liver want to just take a break and not filter out any toxins that come in the body from things that we eat and drink and the air that we breathe and whatnot. The body will be instantly affected, and then all other things will fall out of alignment. We have to look at the movement the same exact way. Everybody has a role to play. Whether you are on the front lines as a protester, you got my love, support, and respect. Maybe you're in the classroom and you're doing the social emotional work because our babies are affected by the world around us. You got plenty of my love and respect. Maybe you are a disruptor and you're going to use your social media platform and shake the game up and, expose crooked systems and, advocate loudly, so on and so forth. You got my love and respect. The issue comes in when we say this one is better than that one. This one is more potent than that one. That's when we're putting the us or the me in social justice and not the we. Let me turn to the comments. I wanted to read one. Who was this from? Veronica. Veronica said homelessness due to the loss of income or mental illness. Yes, yes, yes. Lack of community support due to funding issues. This is a very complex issue due to a variety of different circumstances. Some factors are underlying due to poverty, affordable housing, addiction, mental health, and community. I love that comment. Right now in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, we have one of the highest homeless population rates in the country, but we also have one of the highest abandoned houses crisis. There are parts and portions of the city you can drive for blocks and blocks and blocks and literally just see abandoned houses to your left and abandoned houses to your right. But on those same corners of those blocks, you see homeless people begging for change. You see homeless people, you understand, sleeping on the corner, sleeping on the bus stop. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. We had a situation here in Milwaukee, and it just broke my heart. And it's just like, I don't know, the world is just cruel nowadays. And so for me, this is where it says, okay, my cause is bigger than my individual preference, if you will. So here in the city, there's this particular like corners right off of a freeway. So coming off the freeway, you would go to this corner to, it's like a Wendy's right there, and you get to your main streets coming off the freeway. And there's this homeless. I'm assuming they're a couple because I always see the two of them all the time. And they're right there on that corner all the time. It's kind of their living quarters, if you will. And when the winter came on, they built like a little shelter. I mean, family, we talk about smaller than a doghouse. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you the truth. Some of them probably just keep the wind off their backs, give them a little bit more shelter than what they had with their covers. Do you know some city workers came and tore the house down? And all I could think of in my heart, y'all, was knowing that I'm finna come home to a big old queen size warm bed, fam, with a house that my energy bill is paid, so I can turn my heat up to 100 or I can turn it down to 10. My boss just gonna have to write me up because I'm not tearing down this small shelter, this small structure, this small house. I'm not doing that. My paycheck ain't paying me enough to do that to somebody's livelihood like that. You talk about kicking somebody while they down. And so these are the things when you have a heart, when you operate on passion and purpose, how we spoke on earlier, these are the difficulties that you face with. Do you do what you may be paid to do? As a city worker who needs to tear down the small housing, for the homeless couple. Maybe you're in the school system and, you have to handle things a certain way because it's a by the book type of conversation. It's your paycheck type of conversation. Or do you say, you know what, I'm going to put all that on the line. I'm going to put all of that on the line and give it all over to a cause that's righteous, even if it means slander, even if it means, these other consequences that sometimes come with pushing positivity in such a destructive world. I got a lot of people in the chat saying that they are passionate about LGBTQ plus rights. We got a few people. I see about 4, maybe 4 to 5, 6, 7 people. And if you were one of the family members who said LGBTQ plus rights and conversations, give us a little bit more information in the chat about why it is that you feel that way. Why is that what you picked? We have prison reform. I see rights for felons. And I see prison reform. I see that as a thing as well. Mass incarceration has been a comment in the chat as well. And those things are huge, man. Those things are huge when you look at cities who will rather build up prisons than schools, middle schools or high schools. Okay, that's huge when you look at. We have to have crime because we make a lot of money off of prisons. And if there are no prisoners in the prisons, we won't make no capital back. So we have to create conditions, okay, in certain poor communities, in certain disenfranchised communities, in certain communities of color, we have to create those conditions for crime to exist. Now, we could always talk about choice, because I do believe that choice is a huge thing when we make decisions in this world. But as an adult man, I understand systematic injustices. Okay, I understand the psychological damage that poverty does to our people, and it cripples our decision-making skills. Yes, I think it was Malcolm X said, the system will give you whiskey and lock you up for being drunk. the system will give you cards and dice and lock you up for gambling. This is that type of thing that we deal with. Let's see here. I'm just going through the comments, just seeing how the family feeling, seeing how the people thinking. Mental health. Mental health is a big thing. I wrote that down on my paper here as well, especially in communities of color and disenfranchised communities. In my particular communities, in Black communities, we're taught to pray it away. We're taught to, kind of just ignore that thing, just shush it under the rug a little bit, and hopefully everything will blow over. That's so traumatic, family. That's so traumatic. Children with children issues that get unaddressed grow up to be adults in the physical, but still children internally. And so that mental health conversation, man, that is a huge social justice issue that needs to be addressed. A lot of our family and friends that we see in prison, they need mental health assistance. Maybe not jail, bars, you understand me what I'm saying? And no sunlight. Maybe that's the exact opposite of what they need. Maybe they need some sunlight and a little bit more mobility and flexibility to deal with their mental health issues. Yes. And again, I'm just reading through the comments some more. I see number one, children are the future. And it is our responsibility as leaders in the community to provide them services based on ethical and moral values. I can get with that. I can get with that. If something just is going against my spirit, if something's just going against my heart, I cannot just exist and let it happen. I train martial arts. Yes, I train martial arts real heavy. And again, this is more of that concept of social justice is more than just us. My safety and security is more than just mine. In my particular system of martial arts, we are taught that as far as your eye can see, you have an obligation to protect that from where you stand to what your eye can see. Okay. And so if I happen to look outside of my front window one day and I see a carjacking or something go along, or an argument that's, just a little bit too toxic or so. Now, I'm not saying just be Superman and jump into every situation, but my training teaches me to try to step in and diffuse that. My training teaches me to intervene. If it's too heavy of an intervening situation, maybe we need to call the police, or maybe we need to call a crisis intervention, type of situations. But maybe there are preventable things. I use this tactic a lot when I'm in the school system, bullying, fam. I'm huge on, I don't do that bullying. I don't do talking about, oh, look at your shoes, ha ha, he he. Look at your size, look at your hair, look at your clothes. We're going to talk about you because it's not the latest fashion. We don't do that. So even in my quest for social justice, the smaller things matter to me, like protecting that kid who was just talked about, because they may truly be suffering in silence. They may truly be suffering on the inside. And the last thing they need is to come to school and somebody to talk about their appearance. When they don't have food at home, they might be getting abused at home. And so again, when you talk about being in the social justice arena, moving from emotion and ego to passion and purpose, these are the type of conversations we find ourselves involved in. Let's see here. I fight for that because it applies to me, and I want to fight for myself and my peers. Come on, come on. The ability to speak up for yourself is so powerful. It's interesting because I'm so outspoken. I'm such a teacher and whatnot. I'm such an educator. I'm such a speaker. But I always wasn't this way. I can remember being in high school, which I'm only 29. So when I say I can remember being in high school, I ain't talking about like back in the days. Okay, I'm just talking about when I graduated in 2009, 2008 or so. I ain't talking about way back when. But nonetheless, I can remember being in high school and being a follower to the core. Like whatever my friends wanted to do, I'm like, okay, I'm down, whatever. Let's go rob a bank. Okay, when we trying to go right now? Let's skip school. Now, knowing I'm failing, I'm knowing that, you're going to get the automated phone call home to your mama saying, hey, this is, Rufus King High School calling because Ajamou Butler is late for class, or, he's absent for class. Knowing my mama going to go upside my head for skipping school, I didn't have that ability to speak out for myself and to fight for myself and just simply say, you know what, fam, this shit making me too uncomfortable right here. This ain't, I don't necessarily agree with this whole operation. So I'm just going to remove myself from the situation. So to hear you say, you want to fight for yourself and your peers, those who live like you, those who look like you, those who love like you, that's selfless, revolutionary love right there. That's real. I can honor and respect that a whole lot. We have a comment which says, I am a part of the LGBTQ plus community myself, and lots of my friends are as well. I know the fear of coming out to unaccepting parents. And I'm going to add on to that: unaccepting parents, unaccepting friends, yes, unaccepting community members, yes. And what it is like to be discriminated against for the person I love. I don't want my children or grandchildren to know that fear or anger or pain. And so because you have felt that fear, that anger, that pain, you advocate against it. You speaking life into the universe. You put life into the atmosphere. You're going through it so that those who come after you do not have to go through it. It's a special place in this world for people like you. For real, for real. I see some arrows pointing up like, yep, that's the comment. Yes, yes. Social movement, social change, and social action. Awareness is on the rise. Absolutely. And I think also because we live in a social media day and age, you can't side, like Fred Hampton said, you can kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. Okay. We're going to continue to push the message, and social media only amplifies that message. And again, I'm just scrolling through some of these wholesome comments. Y'all better come on and give me all the life I need. We have, as a person of the LGBTQ plus community, there has been many times that I have been limited to the most simplest things, just like sitting at a restaurant with my girlfriend, which is frustrating. That's why I fight for the LGBTQ community. And I love it. I love to hear that, because when we are faced with those uncomfortable things, we can either swallow it and say, you know what, instead of going here, I'm gonna just go to this restaurant. Yesterday we had a conversation about respect. RESPECT was the conversation. Okay. And so when faced with that, if you go into a restaurant with your girlfriend and say, hey, you know, you can't be in here, or however that, you know, interaction may go, you can say, you know what, I'm going to just swallow that and go to a lesser restaurant. I don't even like the food at this other restaurant, but I'm going to go there because I don't know how to speak up for myself. I don't know how to advocate against all of this trash and negativity that's in the atmosphere. Or we can say, you know what, I'm going to organize and advocate against this type of energy and behavior so that this does not happen anymore. And then we also, you know, in the social justice arena, this is something I wanted to mention, because there's a balance to everything. I do teach and preach, go hard at everything you do. But remember, social justice is more than just us. So let me give some context and example. I have a friend of mine who, he's a rebel rouser. He's a rebel. You know, he shakes the pot up. He stir that thing up at all costs. He like a blender. He just slush it all up. And that's beautiful. I love to see Black men rebellious. I love to see Black men who believe in self-defense and protection of our families and communities. He's a father, businessman, good brother. I mean, solid dude. Him and his lady friend were having some issues because he wanted to like get out here in the protest lines, like in the thick of it, like put his safety on the line, put his body on the line. You know what I'm saying? And I get it, okay? Because at some point in time, if we call ourselves revolutionaries or leaders or protectors or warriors or whatever that title may be, there will come a time where we have to make tough decisions. But his partner was telling him, like, listen, you have a kid, you have businesses, we're trying to grow into a future. So it's not that she was telling him not to get out here on the front lines, but she was telling him, can you just take a moment to consider, you know, everything that you could lose if things get real hectic out there. And so though we may have that fire, yes, inside of us, where it's like, man, listen, I'm about to burn down everything that's wicked, everything that represents injustice, everything that represents, you know, inequality. We may have that fire in us. We got to be careful, because that fire can burn the things that we love too. Yes. Fire can either cook a meal for a village or it can burn the whole village down, family. And so when you're dealing in social justice area, especially those of us who find ourselves in leadership positions, we have to be very particular that we're still being true to who we are, our loved ones who are close to us. My mother sees me out here in the movement every day, and she'll never tell me not to get into the thick of it, but she tells me just slow down, make sure you're thinking, you know, make sure if you're going to get out here and protest, make sure your cell phone is charged up with a backup battery, or, you know, just those kind of tidbits. And I take heed to that, because as much as I want to see liberation for Black and disenfranchised communities, I don't want to see my mama crying if something happened to me either. You see? And so we have to find that balance in the movement. We have to find that balance as social justice advocates. We got to know when to hold and when to fold. It's something that the elders taught. So let me read through a couple more of these comments. And I definitely appreciate this feedback. It's real heavy and wholesome. I tell you that. It's the balance between individuals and society measured by comparing distribution of wealth. Love that comment. I can definitely get with that. Who's that? Veronica, you've been teaching and preaching, Veronica. We need to get you on one of these sessions for the Teen Summit. You've been going in on today. Equal rights in general. I love it. I love it. Felon rights. That's another one that I see here that I wanted to touch on. Just the idea that our society is so harsh and unforgiving to people who may have made decisions that caused them prison time and, caused that felony to be on their car. We're so unforgiving in those situations. Some of my coldest business associates that I know, they had to go in business because they had that felony on their record, right? And they may have been transformed emotionally, transformed spiritually, transformed socially, but because society says that, hey, you did that crime, you serve your time, and now we're going to stamp you as a felony. The only jobs you can probably get is a Walmart, pushing carts, maybe, you understand? Something that won't help to sustain you and your family. And so they launched their own businesses. And so I can only imagine what this world would do if our prison reform system was so different. You see, if you go overseas, let me hydrate myself. I'm teaching and preaching now. Oh, that water was good. When you go into other like prison systems around the world, they are solely based on reform. Solely based on reform. So inside of the institution, they have mental health resources, health resources. Drug addiction is not treated as a crime, but as a health crisis. There are tons of educational opportunities. There are tons of emotionally and spiritually enhancing opportunities. And so that when they release from the prison population, there's so much more productive and useful to society. But here in America, it's like, hey, listen, man, we're going to put you in this prison camp. Okay, we're going to make you work for 10 cents an hour, if even that. We're going to give you subpar, living conditions and food, and, limit the access to resources and sunshine and healthy things that'll create a productive human being in you. And then we're going to put you back into society and make it hard for you to, get resources on the outside of the wall. So not only are we limited inside of the wall, once we get outside of the walls with that felony on our record, that just dramatically reduces our chances of being successful to be able to find housing. We talked about the homeless crisis earlier, family, to find those resources we need for mental health and just our overall health resources, financial resources. Somebody just put in the comment, the voting piece. The voting piece is huge. Felons can't vote. That's a whole nother level. We ain't got enough time left in this particular conversation to talk about the injustices of our people who have made mistakes. Now, I'm not saying that all criminals are people who have made mistakes, okay? I'm not here to say who deserves prison and who does not. I'm not a judge, nor am I the jury. But I'm going to say that there are people behind those bars who are innocent, for one. Let's start there. You get people who may get locked up for selling a $10 bag of weed, while right up the street there's a marijuana shop and they selling about a pound. That's a thing. And then there are people who genuinely made, terrible mistakes because of the circumstances they were in, because of the environments that they were in, and they have redeemed themselves. But society says if you got that felony on your record, it's all bad. So we getting off topic a little bit. Let me read a couple of these comments. Let's see. Felons get out of jail with a record, so they can't get a job to support them. So they have to go back to doing illegal things to get the money in the coat with. That's it. That's it. That's all. When you rob a person of resources, when you rob a person of dignity, when you rob a person of their self-respect, what do you expect? You see, what do you expect? And then we're going to do a couple more comments, and I just want to open the floor to questions in our last few moments together, and then we will wrap that thing up like a sandwich wrap. Yeah, we're going to go with that. We're going to wrap it up like a sandwich wrap. I like that. Yes. On mental health, I have depression. My mother has depression. My grandmother is bipolar. My mother and grandma, they don't think they deserve the help they now have access to, because at one point they didn't have access to it. That's good. I like that. When I had a breakdown in the school bathroom, it took me years. It took 3 years, excuse me, for my insurance to allow me to see a therapist. Wow. And the school put me on an evaluation list. You know how long I've been there? 7 years, and I'm still on that list. I am going to put my email. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat box. I'm not saying that I can solve all issues and whatnot, but I am extremely interested in hearing more about this situation and figuring out what resources that we can, administer to you so that you can help to deal and navigate through those things. I appreciate that transparency. That was some hella transparency, and I do appreciate that. Social responsibility is an ethical theory in which individuals are accountable for fulfilling their civic duty, and their actions of and the actions of an individual must be balanced between economic growth and the welfare of society and the environment. Come on, breaking it down for us. Social responsibility. That's a good word. That is a good word right there, family. So I want us to do a couple of things as we wrap up our last few moments with each other. The first thing I'm big on is networking and making sure that we are not just leaving the space like, ooh, that felt good. Ooh, so-and-so had good points. Ooh, those ASL interpreters were so dope, okay? I want us to be able to connect. So I'm going to add my social media handles and my website information in the chat box. If you guys could do the same, I just want to take 2 or 3 minutes. I'm going to pull out my phone literally, and if you add your Instagram name or your LinkedIn name, I'm going to go to your page and add you so that we can create the opportunity for us to continue these conversations and for us to connect outside of Zoom, to become more personal with these conversations, to become more in tune with these conversations. So I'm going to play some music. Y'all know I like to play my music so we don't have too much dead air. But I am going to, like I said, add my social media handles, a couple of websites that I can be reached at. And I see we already got some family who has started to drop information in the chat. Yep, and we only have 5 more minutes, y'all, 5.5 or so more minutes. So we're going to take about 2 minutes to do this. Feel free to add anybody, to connect with anybody who you may want to. And if you don't want to, that's totally fine as well. Again, like I said, I just like to offer up the idea for us to stay connected and network outside of the spaces that we are in. Okay. And I also want to just leave space in the chat for anybody who may have questions about anything we covered today, about the work we do with Heal the Hood, anything of the nature like that. I do want to offer time in this space to, just tap in and give me some feedback. What you think about the session? What do you think about the conversation? And just, overall, boom. Okay, so family, we got some emails tapping in. We got a couple of websites tapping in as well. Let's make sure we stay connected. I see somebody just added me on LinkedIn and on the gram. Hey, y'all. Yes. And particularly, my family member who said that they were having the issues with the insurance, and they said that they dealt with the generational depression piece. I don't think I was able to see the name of who that was, but please tap in with me, please. I definitely want us to connect so I can hear more about your story. And again, just see whatever ways I may be able to offer some sort of assistance on the topic at large. So again, family, as we wrap up our time, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me in this dope space today. Shout out to End Abuse for putting this on. This has not been an easy task. We've been having a lot of meetings, a lot of long meetings, a lot of strong meetings, but we are here. It's been dope. Yesterday set me on fire, honey. Listen, if y'all were here yesterday and got to experience the keynotes and even the first day, man, the panel discussion we had. I mean, this has just been a dope experience. So again, shout out to End Abuse. Make sure y'all get connected with the Dare to Know program. Make sure you tap in with us on all social media platforms just to hear about different things we got coming up, different youth leadership opportunities. With that being said, family, I appreciate y'all so much for tapping in and tuning in. This has been Social Justice is More Than Just Us with Ajamou Butler. And I pray that you take some insight from this and we all humble ourselves. Because there's good work being done out here in the community. It's good work. It's not, the work is not done. Obviously, we got a long road of recovery, in fighting this fight that we fight. Yes. There's some good work being done, but let's stay humble. Let's stay grounded. Let's stay moving. No competition or collaboration.